ABC News, bye-bye. ABC Network, bye-bye. The FCC is on to you. This wasn't the smartest move by Jimmy Kimmel, but nobody ever said the guy was all that smart. Apparently, over at ABC World News Tonight, they're not so smart either because they got a reporter who's just fawning over these messages, these text messages between the guy who took out Charlie Kirk and his we'll go with roommate to keep it clean. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we got ABC about to lose its FCC license. I am going to show you some sound from my friend Benny Johnson's interview with Brandon Carr, head of the FCC. He's like, it's over. It's over, guys. It's just over. FBI, meanwhile, focusing on the roommate. I have some intel I want to share with you about that. Sources telling me that this guy's like not out of the woods just yet. We've got a radical group in Salt Lake City that feds are also zoning in on. And I got a question for you. Who do you think is funding all of these groups, all these anti-MAGA, anti-Trump groups? I mean, did this just sort of happen overnight all of a sudden? Is this a coordinated effort? We're going to get into all of it. Welcome to the program. I am Trish Regan. This is the Trish Regan Show. What a few days it's been here, right? But we're plugging ahead. We're moving ahead. I'm here every day live with you on the front lines of history. Please join us by subscribing. We begin today on Donald Trump's FCC looking to yank ABC's license. You know what? You can only push them so far. And they just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. You got this schmo over there, one Jimmy Kimmel, who considers himself a comedian, a bad one at that. I mean, when you got to have your jokes written for you, buddy. And then he tried to suggest, I mean, this is just full out misinformation, disinformation, that somehow this suspect that is believed to have assassinated Charlie Kirk was somehow, just a MAGA guy, like a Trump guy. In fact, what he said was, quote, "We hit some lows over the weekend with this MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it." Whoa, 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 buddy boy. And this is why. You know what? It's caught the attention of the guy who's in charge of giving out the licenses for ABC to even be in business to begin with. He's already, Brandon Carr, flagged ABC repeatedly because of The View and because of World News Tonight and because of some of the debates and because of This Week with Georgie Boo Stephanopoulos, the little guy, who made ABC have to pay $16 million to Donald Trump and his attorneys because he just flat out libeled him on the air. Well, Brandon Carr's had it. He's totally had it, and now he's looking at maybe taking some action. He said he's got to be careful about how he says this. But you can read between the lines just like I can. And it could be lights out for ABC. And I don't think I'm going to shed a tear over it. Are you? Watch.
When you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. As you've indicated, there are avenues here for the FCC. So there are some ways in which I need to be a little bit careful because we could be called ultimately to be a judge on some of these claims that come up. But I don't think this is an isolated incident. I mean, you go back to Representative Swalwell, and he emphasizing that Charlie Kirk's killer was a straight white male from a Republican family that voted for Donald Trump. In some quarters, there's a very concerted effort to try to lie to the American people about the nature, as you indicate, of one of the most significant, newsworthy public interest acts that we've seen in a long time. And what appears to be an action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. If that's what happened here with his conduct, that is really, really sick. And I've been very clear from the moment that I have become chairman of the FCC, I want to reinvigorate the public interest. And what people don't understand is that the broadcasters, and you've gotten this right, are entirely different than people that use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel. or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Okay, he said it. We're going to do this the easy way, or we're going to do this the hard way. And you know what? If we do it the hard way, that means bum, 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 bum. You guys lose your licenses, which means all those little ABC affiliates all around the country, they won't have the license to broadcast your stuff. I'm sure they're actually going to be happy about it. They'll probably save a ton of money. And, maybe Brandon in his own special way is going to force some change for ABC because they'll no longer be able to go over the public broadcast airwaves, and they'll have to actually stream, which means they're actually going to have some personality and maybe some honesty and transparency and truth and empathy and all the things that you ought to have, shall we say, as a journalist. But they don't seem to have much of over there at ABC. A comedian too, right? I mean, for the guy to sit there and say what he said, flat out lie, all right? All the information points to this kid having been badly radicalized. And by the way, you don't have to take my word for that. You don't have to take the FBI's word for that. Just look at his text messages. It says it all right there. So you got Jimmy Kimmel out there lying at a time when, by the way, ABC's already on thin ice. Don't forget what Donald Trump tweeted out just a couple weeks ago. Here he was saying, you know what? ABC and NBC fake news are two of the worst and most biased networks in history. Give me a 97% bad stories. If that's the case, they are simply an arm of the Democrat Party, and they should, according to many, have their licenses revoked by the FCC. I would be totally in favor of that because they are so biased and untruthful, an actual threat to our democracy. And consider this is happening before everything with Charlie Kirk. This is happening before Jimmy Kimmel decided to just somehow make up a whole narrative that had nothing to do with the truth. I mean, I'm stunned by it. I'm shocked by it. It's demoralizing to even think that, you can have colleagues in this business, in the entertainment or television news business, that would actually just flat out make stuff up for their own, personal gain? Does he think it's going to help him with ratings? I don't know. I don't think so. He's kind of in the toilet as far as that's concerned. I mean, he's the next one to go, right? I mean, first Colbert, now Jimmy Kimmel. How's Jimmy Kimmel going to stay in business when he's flat out lying to people? Does he really think that's what people want to hear? I'll tell you. When you got 38,000, I read somewhere today it was upwards of 70,000 new chapters for Turning Point that are just coming up out of the woodwork. Everybody cares right now. This has transcended the entire country. I'm hearing from Democrat after Democrat after Democrat after Democrat. They're all switching parties because they're disgusted by what they have seen from their own. And you can lump Jimmy Kimmel in there with their own. So he's out spreading misinformation and disinformation, saying what he said about this kid being a Trump supporter, MAGA guy, this, that, and the other. Well, Brandon Carr, he's had enough. And they're seriously looking at removing ABC's FCC license. That's a big deal, you guys. And you know what? I would not be surprised. I mean, don't forget what he said to us just a couple weeks ago. I won't play the sound again, but we've talked about it. I mean, you had The View spouting all kinds of insanity. And what did Brandon say? He went on to Fox News and he said, absolutely, they were in jeopardy. Absolutely, they were in trouble. Don't forget, even before Donald Trump came to office, back in December of 24, Brandon sent a whole letter to the Disney CEO. That would be one Bob Iger, who's going to be sitting there tearing his hair out saying, Jimmy, buddy, what are you doing? You're trying to kill me here. I mean, we're already on thin ice. And then you go with this. Oh, and this isn't the end of it because you got more ABC problems. It's not just the comedian. It is the news division for like World News Tonight. You know, the one with the anchor with the very pretty hair. Well, he's got a reporter out in the field reporting on all this stuff. And this reporter, I got to tell you, he's editorializing in his own little poetic way that just is going to turn your stomach. I mean, I have to play it for you because you got to know what these people are saying. But I'll tell you, the public is furious. People are calling for this guy to be fired. Critics are demanding it because you got this reporter over there on ABC, World News Tonight, and he's talking about this entire situation as it's going down. And I want to tell you, one, he's a moron. He's an absolute moron because the way he interpreted these texts, I think the texts are fake, basically. I have more on that coming up, and I've spoken to some sources on this. We're going to get to it. But first of all, here's this guy, Matt Gutman. I had never heard of him. Promise, I'd never heard of him before. But, you know, I've never heard of most of the people on these network news shows. I mean, they are just so passé, are they not? Please tell me you don't watch ABC World News Tonight anymore. Anyway, Matt Gutman, if you did, you would have seen him say this, waxing on, swooning over the, love affair between the guy that is suspected of killing Charlie Kirk and his, like I said, we'll go with roommate to keep it clean.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many people didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and...
Oh, touching! Aren't we glad to know? It was so touching. Oh my goodness, these people love each other so much. Oh my gosh, well, he must be a good guy because he loved his roommate. Please!
Suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said...
Ooh, what are we, excusing this? The duality? Like somehow, like he's got a nice side to him? We're gonna focus on the nice side, right? Because we don't want to actually admit what a heinous excuse for a human being this guy was.
Not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing...
Whoa. Not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk. Do we need to go back to, I don't know, 7th grade English? Do you need a little vocab test there, Mr. Matt, what's your name, Gutman? Because he didn't jeopardize the life of. He killed him. Okay? So you can wax on poetic about how loving this all is. We know the truth. And this isn't helping you over at ABC. Again, Bob Iger, you got a problem. Your whole team is just like infested with people who clearly only see one side. And this is what we got to get away from, is it not?
In front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference, David. It was tough.
Lovingly. By the way, that's our friends over at Newsbusters. Thank you for getting that clip. Lovingly, speaking so lovingly about his partner. I mean, it kind of just makes you want to just think how Erica Kirk feels. Right? Just think of how Charlie Kirk's family feels. So people are now calling for this guy to be fired. In other words, they're already furious at ABC. Jimmy Kimmel went far enough, and then we had to top it off with this one. And I just got to tell you, he's not that smart. He's actually kind of an idiot. And we're going to explore this a little bit more later on in the show. But this kid had a 36 on his ACT, which is the equivalent of like a 1500 or 1550 on the SAT. He's a 4.0 student. You really think he's stupid enough to actually put this all into a text message? I got some questions. I mean, I kind of think that this was a setup, if you ask me. These text messages, he's admitting it right there over text. Maybe this was a way to keep his roommate clean so that his roommate wouldn't get tagged with this. So you get the roommate saying, wait, it's you? What? You were the one who did this? And the guy says, I'm sorry. Well, I thought they caught the person. Why? Why did I do it? I mean, they're going back and forth. And again, I'm just pointing out, this kid, Tyler Robinson, was no dummy. 4.0. Went on to get a presidential scholarship award of $38,000. He had a 36 on the ACT, equivalent of 1500, 1550 or so on the SAT, for those of us that are more familiar with the SAT. And you think he's going to put this all in a text message for the feds to find? I don't think so. I think there's more there. Okay, but we got little Matt Boy over at ABC who's just so impressed, right? So impressed with this guy, and it kind of reminds me of that, Luigi situation or something all over again. He is so impressed that he's referring to his roommate as my love, etc. So now people are saying this guy's got to be fired. I mean, overall, you have a problem. You have a problem at Disney. We've seen it. I've been warning of it. Heck, Nelson Peltz, the billionaire investor, tried to warn you. Bobby Iger, I mean, he tried to tell you. You got a problem. You got a problem with all the employees there. You got to clean house. You got to start over. Like this is not good. And not to mention, you don't have 1 ounce of creativity in any of you because you just keep coming up with sequel after sequel after sequel after sequel. And then, okay, we need to be DEI. So let's make sure that we have, a main character that's this, that, or the other. Well, that doesn't actually play in Peoria, as they say. It doesn't actually play with parents who want to take their kids to the movies. So Disney has a serious problem. But look, the whole media has a problem. You know that. I know that. We've talked about this at length. I mean, for goodness sakes, MSNBC, they had to fire a guy, which, by the way, ABC probably ought to do as well. They had to fire a guy, Matthew Dowd, someone I used to work with at Bloomberg the other day, because Matthew thought it would be tasteful. I don't know what he thought. I mean, maybe he wasn't thinking. I don't even want to play the sound again for you because it's so disgusting and it just makes me livid. But he effectively was justifying this violence against Charlie Kirk because of Charlie Kirk's words. Because apparently in Matt Dowd's little world and over there at MSNBC, they don't actually believe in the First Amendment or freedom of speech. You know what Charlie would say? Charlie would say, you bring it on. I don't care what somebody's saying. They have a right to say it. Well, they have a right to say it. I wouldn't necessarily say they have a right to spew disinformation over on ABC News. And I think Charlie would agree with me on that because there's a responsibility when you're using federal airwaves. So the FCC has every right at this point in time to say, we're pulling the plug, you're going streaming. You can go over there on Disney Plus, right? Because that's working out really well for you. Anyway, Comcast, they issued an apology. You know the drill. All the executives over there, oh my gosh, this Matthew Dowd situation. Well, what did we do? We got rid of him. We ended our association with a contributor who made an unacceptable and insensitive comment about this horrific event. I'll tell you, Bob Iger, Disney, ABC, you ought to be doing the same with Jimmy Kimmel and that Matt guy. All right, you ought to be looking at this. Matt Dowd, of course. Oh, we got a few Matts. Matt Dowd doesn't get it. He somehow thinks that the MSNBC just folded to the right-wing media mob. And he may have some support, shall we say, from one Rachel Maddow and all that, because Rachel Maddow went on and did her once-a-week show that she makes $25 million for. Not for long. I'm telling you, once this company gets spun off, that's not going to happen anymore. She's either going to go bye, or they're going to reduce her to, I don't know, what's fair? Let's be generous and say we'll give her 2 or 3. It's one show a week, 1 hour. Okay? Anyway, so I kind of wonder if she's trying to get fired because she didn't even talk about Charlie. I looked, and then I read somewhere that somebody found 22 seconds. I'm sure she was silent for most of the 22 seconds. I don't know what exactly she said, but she did double down on her hate for Donald Trump, which is, by the way, guys, part of this entire problem, right? Watch.
Help. Trump is now allying us with the world's dictatorships, with his mentor Putin first among them.
Unbelievable.
I mean, but like I said, there's no surprise about what he's doing.
I'll tell you.
There's no open.
The big surprise is when she's going to get the heave-ho, because you know what? Management is not going to go for it anymore. Management has given a strict instruction for everybody to be much more sensitive. And what does Rachel do? She doubles down on her insensitivity. So, Jimmy Kimmel, Matthew the reporter, Rachel Maddow. Like, this is not going to fly, guys. It's just not going to fly. And I can sit here and warn you and tell you until I'm blue in the face. But you know what? Once you're out on the street looking for a job, maybe then you'll realize how serious this actually is. CNN, same kind of situation going on there. I mean, for goodness sakes, you have some host on their 10 p.m. show trying to, again, justify this. And this is what kills me. Like, how dare you in any way, shape, or form ever? I mean, like, where's the humanity? What has happened? What has happened to the media? I mean, I'm horrified because I know a lot of these people and I've worked in this industry and I don't know what's happened to them. I mean, we can say TDS, but it's more than that. There's something very strange going on when you're going to sit there and justify violence. I'm sorry. And then you're going to try and say, oh, no, it's the right to. No. I've looked at the polls. You've looked at the polls. I mean, YouGov just came out with one just the other day, and what did it tell us? The majority of people that are willing to resort to violence, they're on the left, they're young, and they're dangerous. Watch.
This is about punishing them being the left, them being his political opponents. That actually, I think, is surprising to a lot of Americans, because that's not typically what you would expect to hear from the White House after.
Well, let's talk about some polling that he used to justify those comments before he made them on TV. YouGov came out with a poll 3 days ago talking about how each side feels about violence and support of political deaths. Liberals, 16% believe it's okay to feel joy when your political opponent is killed. Liberals, very liberals, 24%. Conservatives, 4%. Very conservatives, 3%. Justifying violence. Very liberal people have 25% answered yes, it's okay, you're justified that you should do violence against your political opponents. Liberals, 17%, conservatives, 8%, and very conservatives, 3%. That means it is 6 to 1 times more likely in respondents to this poll on the left. Now, I'm not saying there's exclusivity on the left. I'm not saying that. But there is certainly a problem where 6 times the amount of Republicans believe that it's okay to feel joy when your political opponent is killed, murdered, whatever, attacked, and that 6 to 1 believe that they are okay in justifying violence against political opponents. That's a problem. That's a cancer within the movement.
Yeah, I think so. And that's a huge problem, right? And how has that been allowed? I mean, I have my ideas. I think after 10 years of listening to everyone on the left just call everyone on the right a Nazi, a fascist, a racist, a this, a that, I mean, it's like, whoa, we got to take them out. I mean, you think back, and guys, you know what? I played this soundbite for you the other day. In 2018, like, I knew Charlie well. He used to come on my show once a week, if not twice a week, I think, eventually, over at Fox. And so we go back, years. I mean, I want to say I put him on the air for the first time like 10 years ago. I was like, wow, the kid's good. Let's get him back. Let's get him back a lot. And in 2018, he was at breakfast, actually, with Candace Owens, who was working for Turning Point at the time. I believe they were in Philadelphia, and he came out of that diner with her. Somebody had signaled in, Candace and Charlie are here. And they walk outside, and they are surrounded with about 50 Antifa people who were being extremely violent, aggressive with them. And he came on to tell me about this. And it was shortly after, of course, Maxine Waters had been calling for everybody to get chased down in a restaurant, a department store, wherever they were. And so this was starting to happen. Remember when Sarah Huckabee Sanders was forced out of a restaurant with her in-laws there because they wouldn't serve her because she was Sarah Huckabee Sanders? This was all starting back then. And there were these calls for, it doesn't matter because he's not our president and these people are horrible and so they deserve it, etc. And it just festered and festered. And now we get to the point where a wonderful 31-year-old father of 2 with his whole life ahead of him has been shot dead? Like, that's where we're going with this? I don't think so. Okay, enough is enough. So you know what? Comcast's doing the right thing. The bosses are trying to say, hey, tone it down. Where's ABC? They got Kimmel going on and spouting lies. They get their reporter trying to make you feel the humanity of the relationship between the roommate and the killer, the suspected killer. My gosh. Well, here's another one for you. I mean, we just go right across the gamut, right? There's a guy who used to work on CNN, and he got fired from CNN because it turns out he was conspiring with his brother to try and manipulate the news cycle, because it turned out his brother was a lousy governor of New York who sent people who actually had COVID, healthy people with COVID, into nursing homes, thereby killing off a whole generation of elderly. It was horrible, horrible, horrible stuff. But Chris Cuomo was trying to manage it. Yeah, manage it for his brother. It's such a huge conflict of interest. Anyway, he found some new job at some new network, and here he is trying to blame, gosh, Benny made it into the show twice today, my friend Benny, right? He's trying to blame Benny and anybody on the right, any podcaster on the right that would actually defend Charlie. He's like, no, you guys are the problem. Listen to this. This guy needs to be fired again, okay? He was fired from CNN, and I want him fired again. He has no business being in any kind of journalistic business.
I don't really care how we got here so much. There is a lot of blame to go around.
Blame to go around. Okay, here we go.
I do not see you guys as victims.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I do not see you guys as victims. I don't see you, Benny, as victim. I don't see your friend Charlie as a victim. I don't see anybody in the conservative world as a victim after somebody was just assassinated. I mean, are you kidding me, Chris Cuomo? You really, really, really need to get fired again. It gets worse, okay? It gets worse. Stay with me.
Give as good as you get.
You give as good as you get. Oh, please. Please.
There is a lot of anger. There is a lot of exaggeration. It is all hate for profit on the fringe of this battling binary political system. My question is now what?
Yeah, Benny's like, what did I just walk into? Let's keep going.
Charlie Kirk has never advocated violence ever. Charlie Kirk was only
I'm not saying
a nonviolent, peaceful debater. He went into places where he knew he was hated in order to engage.
I agree.
Kindly and humanly
that
with people.
he was not.
No. You don't agree, Chris Cuomo. By the way, he's not a very smart guy. It's clear that not all the neurons are connecting because he just said, you guys aren't the victims here. You give as good as you get. I mean, he literally just said that. Let's keep going.
You to say that it's the same thing.
Oh, hold on.
It's not, Chris.
Hold on. I'm not talking about it with Charlie. Benny, don't play games with me.
That's a Bill O'Reilly classic. So he has Bill O'Reilly on his show occasionally. And Bill loves to say that. So he's been taking lessons from Bill O'Reilly because he stinks as a commentator. He has not a lot of brain cells going on up there. He now finds himself in an argument with Benny Johnson that he's never, ever, ever, ever going to win. And so he resorts to, let me channel Bill. What would Bill O'Reilly do? Bill O'Reilly would say, hey, this is exactly what's going on.
I'm giving you latitude because you deserve it, because this was your friend and this is scary and it hurts and it could have just as easily been you.
The dehumanization is wrong. It's wrong. And
There's no question, but Benny,
you'll never be able to chew me out, Chris, because I'll never dehumanize.
Benny,
if I hear that Joe Biden gets a terminal cancer diagnosis, I'll say a prayer for him. I'll say that I hope he lives the rest of his days painless. That's exactly what I said, and every person that I know and respect, and I know them all in my ecosystem, said the same thing. Not a single one of us celebrated. Not a single one of us celebrated Joe Biden's terminal cancer diagnosis. Now, I can show you a endless series of TikToks and celebration posts and T-shirts made celebrating this travesty. There is a fundamental difference of those who glorify death on the left, and it is demonic, it's sick, and it's dark, and it needs to be.
All right, but
it needs to be disavowed.
Benny, I hear you.
No, you don't. You don't hear anything. I mean, you're just bad at your job, and you're desperate, I guess. So you'll collect your little paycheck over there, and I guess you get some little podcast that nobody watches. But Benny, woohoo, my man, right? Putting him in his place. I can't even be bothered to go on shows like that. Because it's like you just can't have an intelligent conversation with somebody like that who frankly just isn't that intelligent. Gary, good to see you. Thank you for the generosity. We got a lot of very generous people here today. Good to see everybody here. Make sure you subscribe, share, like. If you have not, we have so much to get to. This is a very, very big show because I'm telling you, a lot of change is coming. A lot of change is coming. But before we get to all that change, here's my question. Who the heck is texting stuff like this? Roommate and his, significant other. Who texts stuff like they did? The FBI, and I've got very, very good sources at the FBI, and I spoke with somebody pretty high up recently, and this person told me that, they're looking at everything. By the way, congrats to the FBI, for goodness sakes. I mean, what an amazing job. It was like 33 hours, and they got the guy, right? And as I understand it, not everybody wanted to release the photo, but thank goodness you got Kash and Dan there who had the common sense to say, let's get this photo out and make sure, because somebody's going to recognize him, right? So excellent job by the FBI. But here's my question, and I think that it's fair to say, and I know this from sources, that the roommate's not out of the woods yet. I know that there's, he's cooperating, whatever. But again, I get back to this. This guy, Tyler Robinson, was allegedly pretty smart, right? I mean, not even allegedly. He got a 4.0, graduated from school with a 4.0, got a 36 or a 34 on his ACT. I mean, I speak in SAT terms because, I am from the Northeast and we take SATs here. That would be like a 1500, 1550 on an SAT. So he's no dummy. So why would somebody who is absolutely not a dummy actually confess in a text message unless that person wanted to make sure that the feds found it and to make sure that the roommate was somehow never implicated in any of this? Because the roommate is like, wait, what? You did it? Wait, why? Blah, 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 blah. So I just think that is peculiar and strange. And I think there's a reason this roommate is not out of the woods. Apparently the roommate is cooperating. But then again, what is this text message about? Who would send a text message like that saying, okay, I got to get my gun, I this, that, and I did it. I had a chance to take him out, so I decided to do it. This is kind of unbelievable, all right? I don't think a smart person with the kind of scores that this guy had and the intellect that he supposedly had would actually be sending out text messages like that, right? I mean, what 4.0 student with high ACTs be sending this out? He writes, telling this guy, make sure you delete this exchange. And since, Trump's gotten into office, my dad loves him, blah, blah, blah. So, my dad could turn me in. It's going back and forth. That the feds are going to find that. So is this all about making sure that you protect the roommate so that the roommate is basically out there free and clear? Saying, how long have you been planning this? Why did you do this? Etc. I mean, those are not normal reactions. Like if you found out someone did that, I mean, you'd be horrified. There might be some crying emojis and you might go straight to the police, right? I don't think that you're going to see a text exchange like that. So that has my antenna up. And I do know that authorities are looking really hard at him, as they should, right? The FBI is looking at this roommate and they're paying attention to just exactly what he did or did not do. And, this is him. His name is Lance Twiggs. So he is a person of interest. And, unfortunately for him, if he had nothing to do with it, he's going to still go down in history. His name, his picture, it's all there, right? Because you were the roommates or romantic love interest of the guy who took out Charlie Kirk. There are a lot of questions. And many people believe that this was not something that was planned and orchestrated all by one person, Tyler Robinson. They actually believe that there may have been a whole lot more people involved. I mean, we're talking upwards of 20. I played you a soundbite yesterday from the hearing with Kash Patel, and you had Josh Hawley, the senator, asking him about this, and he said, yeah, it could be 20 more. Here's another soundbite. This is Senator Kennedy talking to him, and what you hear is, yes, indeed, that they don't think that he acted alone at all.
Did Mr. Kirk's assassin act alone?
As I've said since the beginning, Senator, it is very much an ongoing investigation, and I can't speak to the state charges. That's for the state to address on their own, but we are providing them with the same investigatory findings we're parting the department. And as I noted to Senator, I believe it was Cornyn or Hawley, that there are a number of individuals that are currently being investigated and interrogated, and a number yet to be investigated and interrogated specific to that chat room. So we are very much in our ongoing posture of investigation.
So others could have been involved?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's where we are right now. So possibly a broader network of people that wanted to see Charlie taken out. Again, it came up with Hawley, Senator Hawley asking about this.
Reports have suggested that the FBI is investigating a broader network of groups that may have had some knowledge of the shooter's plans. Can you give us any details on that, following up what you've already said in public? How's the FBI working to find other potential accomplices, folks who may have known about the shooter's plans, folks who may have encouraged him? Any update on any of that?
So in terms of what we do for an interrogation perspective, we go and reach out to the family and community immediately. And we've conducted those investigations and interrogations with local law enforcement, and we're continuing to do that because those closest to the suspect are going to hopefully know the most about the suspect and his beliefs and his ideology. On top of that, unfortunately, it has been leaked that there was a Discord chat, and for those unfamiliar with it, it's a gaming chat room online that the suspect participated in. So what we're doing, we've already done, is serve legal process, not just on Discord, so that the information we gathered is sustained and held in a evidentiary posture that we could use in prosecution should it be decided to do so. And we're also going to be investigating anyone and everyone involved in that Discord chat.
Okay, very good. I see the public reports that the Discord thread had as many as 20 additional users. It sounds like you're trying to run down all of that to see if that's accurate, who else may have been on that thread, what they may have known. Is that fair to say?
And that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, but keep in mind, how difficult this entire process is. It's a lot of work, right? And they're getting a lot of information fed into them. They did an excellent job getting the guy in 33 hours. But again, they're looking at the broader situation. They don't think this is a lone wolf thing. It may have been planned out with some great detail. There's a lot of information online that suggests people knew this was coming. John Solomon has done some reporting on this from Just the News, in which he talks about a specific radicalized group that was living up in the mountains outside Salt Lake City. And Kash Patel was asked by Hannity about this particular group. Let's go to the sound.
John Solomon, who I'm pretty sure you know, had a piece out there about a radicalized group close to the area, up in the mountains. They seem to be very radical with the same agenda. Does that concern you, what you're seeing?
All of it concerns me, Sean, but I can't divulge every investigative step we're taking because I don't want to disclose who we're going after and why we're going after them. Obviously, it's been leaked about this Discord chat, so we're going to discuss it a little bit. But what the FBI does is identify, catalog, and bring in experts. That's what we were doing. Round the clock, flying in people, evidence response teams, hostage rescue teams, special operators on our FBI planes, and transporting evidence back in real time from the crime scene in the West Coast to our labs in Quantico to address the situation of forensics immediately. And you highlighted the screwdriver that was found on top of the roof.
Amazing job, okay? Amazing job by them, but the job's not done yet. The job's not done yet because right now we got a big fear about these radicalized groups. And the FBI, as I said, is looking into some 20 suspects. 20 suspects. And you know, the president weighed in on this. We got a lot of radicalized groups on the left. Let's listen to him here yesterday in the White House.
Your FBI is investigating the potential role of left-wing organizations in the assassination. I'm wondering if you think if Charlie Kirk's assassin worked alone or if he worked with...
I don't know. I mean, I can tell you he didn't work alone on the internet because it seems that he became radicalized on the internet. That's just by watching the same things that you're watching and hearing. It looks like he became radicalized over the internet. And it seems like his wonderful parents brought in a wonderful neighborhood, smart guy, great boards, great marks, great student. And then something happened to him over a fairly short period of time. It looks like he was radicalized over the internet, and it's radicalized on the left. He's a left. I have a lot of problems with the left, and they get protected, and they shouldn't be protected. But as you understand, I think very well from the tone of your question. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, wow. So lots of fears about radicalized groups. Again, this YouGov study pointed out that there is some tolerance, shall we say, on the left. On the left, if there's somebody with a different political ideology, they have some tolerance for violence. Now, the majority of Americans, okay, so we should take heart in this, the majority of Americans don't believe this, and they don't believe that anybody should be killed, like duh, because of their political beliefs. But take a look, when you look inside these numbers, and this is what we were talking about earlier with the CNN guest who just destroyed the anchor on this, it's because the political ideology has more tolerance, if you would, amongst some of the very liberal. and the liberal, and then, no tolerance once you get to the conservative group. And so this is a real concern, like how many kids are being radicalized and what has happened to them. And who's doing this, right? Is this foreign money at work? Why are so many young people in America being radicalized? They're talking about going after one George Soros and the NGOs that he funds, because all the money then gets filtered out to some other places. They're concerned that some of the money may have gone to the Salt Lake City group up in the mountains. Let's go back to the hearings for a moment.
I've always said we follow the money. And whether it's tax based on ideology or taxed on institutions of faith or people of faith, someone's paying for it. And we are reverse tracing those steps. We are not stopping at the perpetrator themselves. We are reverse engineering to hold those accountable in our investigations to who funded them and knowingly funded them. And we will bring the appropriate steps against them with our partners at DOJ.
You better believe we will, right? We will bring the appropriate steps. So now we've got to follow all the money and figure out who's involved, because you got problems going on campuses, if you haven't noticed. There's a citizen journalist, David Kayet, who was on Twitter and did this. He went, I guess, to a university in Georgia and was stunned by what he saw just days after the Charlie Kirk situation. I mean, it breaks your heart. Watch. Unfortunately, I don't think we had sound on that one. I don't think the sound came through. But what he was saying was that there was effectively propaganda there that was being pushed. Let's see if we can try one more time, because it's worth hearing. If not, I'll show you tomorrow. But he basically went out to this campus in Georgia, and he discovered that there were all these flyers for ending fascism and ending Trump. And so the question then becomes, who's funding those groups on campuses all across America, right? Who is that? And look, a lot of members of Congress, including our friend Ana Paulina Luna, the representative out of Florida, is saying that it's coming from foreign governments. She specifically cited the guy that you're looking at right there, who the New York Times did a huge expose on just a couple of years ago. He's married to the woman who started Code Pink. His name is Neville Singman, and she's requesting that he come and testify. Apparently he lives in China now, so that's kind of hard to do. But she's saying, look, foreign governments are funding operations on college campuses to promote this political violence. And this is what Charlie was trying to combat in his own way, to say, hey, you know what? We can have conversations, real conversations. And he wanted to be out there in front of this. And so there may have been people that didn't want him, right, to be out there doing this. According to this article, well, it's not just that article, so it's not just the New York Times. It was also the Daily Beast that wrote about the U.S. tech mogul bankrolling pro-Russia, pro-China news networks. I mean, this was his business. He's out there and, with Code Pink Lady, trying to engage in what the New York Times called a smokeless war. Under the rule of Xi Jinping, China has expanded state media operations, teamed up with overseas outlets, and cultivated foreign influencers. The goal is to disguise propaganda as independent content. But what is it? It's propaganda. And so the Times investigation found that Mr. Sigmund had quite a role in all this. He had a lot of Chinese propaganda interests that he was out there perpetuating and supporting financially. Now, he has said, no, not the case. He said, quote, I categorically deny and repudiate any suggestion that I am a member of, work for, or take orders from any, or follow instructions from any political party or government or their representatives. I am solely guided by my beliefs, which are my long-hold personal beliefs. Of course, is he getting paid? I mean, isn't this part of his business to actually push this stuff? According to the article, he married this Code Pink lady, Jody Evans. And apparently she used to be like anti-China because of the Uyghurs. But then, when she married him and she suddenly changed her mind. They had some kind of who's who of progressivism at their wedding in Jamaica, including they had the co-founder of Ben & Jerry's. One of those guys just quit, just resigned. He doesn't like that Unilever is trying to tell him what to do. They started as a little company. He's a communist that somehow made millions, billions probably, off of that business. Anyway, this is the concern, right? He's got a company called NewsClick. And basically they sprinkle all these Chinese government talking points all over their videos. And they have all ways of cross-posting these videos, etc., to try and perpetuate a worldview out there that would be pro-China and would sow discord amongst the U.S. and the U.S. citizens. And so the fear at this point is that the PSL group, which is backed by him and is a communist organization, that's actually receiving tons of money through him, and he's channeling that for negative purposes. I mean, I know that people look at Soros as well and say, you know, what is he doing with his money? But one of the concerns here, according to an interesting Twitter account, which I encourage you guys to follow, Data Republican, is that National Network on Cuba has a member of U.S. organizations that readers of my feed, she writes, will find familiar, including Code Pink, right? The one that Jody runs. She's married to Neville. Alliance for Global Justice, Democrats, Socialists for America, and here we go, Armed Queers of Salt Lake City. So that's the group that they're suddenly focused on, because if you go onto Twitter, apparently a lot of people were talking about Charlie Kirk almost in the past tense before it happened. And there were some music things. I mean, we talked about that the other day on the show, that there were some songs with really horrific titles that seemed to suggest people knew things before they happened. Here's their logo, again, Armed Queers of Salt Lake City. And it's now being looked at. Sources can confirm that this is a group that is being investigated. The Washington Examiner did a story on them. We also see that the New York Post has done a story. The New York Post is looking at this as well, and sources are confirming to the New York Post that, in fact, this is a group that is being examined. And I quote, the feds have widened their investigation into the assassination of Charlie Kirk to determine whether any of these groups, online groups, had any connection with him. And that's the big question right now. Apparently, Armed Queers did take down all of their social media. I went looking for it myself just yesterday. All of it was wiped out. All of it was gone. But you know what? That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, because somebody's going to get it. You know, if it's online once, it's there forever. Again, I hate reading this stuff because it's so tragic. But this is the article in the New York Post where they've been citing these internet sleuths online and showing these disturbing messages, because the day before the shooting, there was a post that was made saying, you know, I hope that he's evaporated, and then somebody followed it with something big is going to happen. So there were these threats out there online, and now the question becomes, how credible are those? Were those, and is there some other group that maybe was getting financing from enemies of America? I mean, look, you know, we're all adults here, and I think that you got to take all of this into question. It's the reason why people were worried about TikTok, right? You know, being run by China, because, I mean, just look at the things that we saw on TikTok. It's just atrocious. I'm not showing any of those things here. Trust me. But the sentiment that somehow that this was justified or okay is pretty awful. I mean, think about the Oxford guy, right, who ran the debate team, who debated Charlie, for goodness sakes. And he actually said, in some cases, these institutions, they're so arcane that you actually need to resort to violence to take them down. He believed in that. That is a viewpoint of extremism. Like, that is never, ever where we want to be. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger gets that. Let's go to Arnold, because Arnold, he's setting the record straight here. Arnold Schwarzenegger's impressing me a lot lately. I know he's had his problems in the past, but you know what he said? How sad he was. Because this should never be the way, right? Like, we have a wonderful, wonderful country, and we need to keep it that way. Our freedom of speech is everything. It is the First Amendment. And just because you don't agree with someone doesn't mean you do this. Here is Mr. Schwarzenegger. Well, I think we got him.
Very upset that someone's life was taken because they have a different opinion. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, this was a great communicator, a great advocate for the right, for Republican causes. And he had such a great way of communicating with the students that agreed or disagreed with him. And I just thought, it's a human being. A human life is gone. And he was a great father, a great husband. And I was thinking about his children. They will only be reading about him now, instead of him reading to them bedtime stories. I mean, it's just unbelievable of what is going on. So I was shocked when I saw this, as we all were.
Yeah. I was shocked. Arnold was shocked. We were all shocked, and we all are asking the same questions, like, how could this have happened? Who is funding this? Who are the radical groups allowing for this on college campuses? I believe we do now have the audio I wanted to show you from this independent reporter, David Kayet, I believe is his name, and he was in Georgia out there trying to figure out how it is that so soon after a tragedy you would see something like this. Let's watch.
We're here at Georgia Tech University in Atlanta, Georgia, and the first thing I see when I come to the campus is the fall of the Trump fascist regime beginning November 5th, 2025. RefuseFascism.org needs to be investigated. 2028 is way too late. Trump must go now. If you walk with me here, we have another sign. This is the scary part. The time has come for the fall of the Trump fascist regime, beginning November 5th. No, in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. All over the campus, similar signs. No, in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. RefuseFascism.org, followed by a sign that we already read. This is happening all over this campus. So you got to ask yourself, when you see posters like this nonstop, what are they advocating for? Are they inciting certain events that we have seen recently? The time has come for the fall of the Trump fascist regime. The time has come. I want to say that again. The time has come. That is what left-leaning organizations on college campuses at Georgia Tech are propagating to college students. So when I walk around and I ask students, do you condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk? And they say no, it's most likely because of stuff like this.
I mean, I'm blown away. I don't know how anybody could be so desensitized that they wouldn't condemn this. And, you know, something's going on, okay? Something's going on, and we as Americans, as adults, have a responsibility to do a better job guiding our kids and to get all of this craziness out of there. I mean, you just can't have this kind of negativity in the educational system. You can't have it in our society. So there's going to be a lot of work that is done. We've got new news on Jimmy Kimmel I want to bring you straight up. But first, Balance of Nature, one of our great sponsors on the program. You know, we haven't done any ads. I left all last week and up until today, actually, absent of all ads because it just didn't feel like the right thing to do. Obviously, the memory of my good friend Charlie is still very, very fresh, of course, in my mind. But we do have bills to pay, so we're going to give a good shout out to our friends at Balance of Nature who are just wonderful, and we thank them for all their patience in this difficult time because it didn't seem appropriate to be talking about this. But you know what? You got to stay healthy, for goodness sakes, right? You got to stay healthy, and the great thing about Balance of Nature is if you use code word Trish, you're helping me, you're helping yourself, and you get 35% off. I mean, the great thing about this product too is what you see is what you get. They have all their fruits and veggies, and they freeze dry them. They pack them to help really seal in those nutrients. And it's kind of cool because if you're like me, you know, you don't like to go grocery shopping a lot. Frankly, you don't like to cook a lot. Sorry. I wish I had more time in my day, right? But this is a great way of being able to ensure that you get what you need, right? All those nutrients, 35% off, free shipping. Go check them out at balanceofnature.com. I do want to get back to the news on Jimmy Kimmel because we have some more breaking news on Jimmy. At this moment, it looks like Jimmy Kimmel is perhaps under some kind of investigation. Let me me share this story with you. It is just coming in real time. Jimmy Kimmel being investigated. Let me just make sure that we want to be very careful. We want to have this all correct and right for you here on the Trish Regan Show. And again, we are live. We are live in this moment. We know that the Trump administration was frankly pretty darn disgusted with some of the things that he said on his show because of, the flat out wrongness of it all. So it seems that Jimmy Kimmel is now perhaps being scrutinized by ABC as a result, ladies and gentlemen, of what he said about Charlie Kirk, which was just flat out wrong. It was just flat out wrong the other night. And because this has now escalated to the point where the FCC chairman is coming in and saying, hey, we may yank the license of ABC News and ABC as a network because of Jimmy Kimmel's comments. This doesn't even include what we talked about with the guy waxing all poetic on about the love letters there in the text messages. This is a situation where they're saying, okay, Jimmy Kimmel really should not have done what he did. And I don't know how he keeps his job at this point, because if you're Bob Iger, like, at what point, like, does push come to shove? Like, is this show really worth it at this moment in time? People are repeatedly demanding that he be fired because of the things that he said. You have now the FCC chair going on, Brendan Carr, saying it has just reached a point of no return. I want to just play this briefly again. If you're just joining us, Jimmy Kimmel is under fire right now with Brendan Carr, who runs the FCC, who gives the licenses out to all the ABC affiliates, saying, you know what, we don't need to do this because these guys are not acting in public interest.
Taken place by Jimmy Kimmel. It appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. As you've indicated, there are avenues here for the FCC. So there are some ways in which I need to be a little bit careful, because we could be called ultimately to be a judge on some of these claims that come up. But I don't think this is an isolated incident. I mean, you go back to Representative Swalwell, and he emphasizing that Charlie Kirk's killer was a straight white male from a Republican family that voted for Donald Trump. In some quarters, there's a very concerted effort to try to lie to the American people about the nature, as you indicate, of one of the most significant, newsworthy public interest acts that we've seen in a long time. And what appears to be an action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. If that's what happened here with his conduct, that is really, really sick. And I've been very clear from the moment that I have become chairman of the FCC. I want to reinvigorate the public interest. And what people don't understand is that the broadcasters, and you've gotten this right, are entirely different than people that use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
I want to add to this. In addition, he said that this is a very, very serious issue for Disney. This is what I was saying earlier, that in other words, you have a license granted by the FCC. I mean, this is taxpayer stuff, right? And with that comes this obligation to actually report the truth and operate within the public interest. And so the FCC, he said, could make a very strong argument that this is sort of an intentional effort to mislead the American people about a very core fundamental fact, a very important matter. Disney needs to see some change here. But the individual licensed stations, he says, that are taking their content, I quote, it's time for them to step up and say, garbage. This is garbage to the extent that this is what's coming down the pipe, and we don't need this in the future, right? Like, we don't want this coming in because this is not serving the needs of our local communities. But this sort of status quo is obviously not, he says, not acceptable where we are. Absolutely not acceptable. So now at this point, I would suspect that the FCC is taking a very hard look. We knew that they were investigating ABC to begin with. They're likely taking a very detailed look at Jimmy Kimmel. I want to go back, if you're just joining us, to tell you what Jimmy said. He tried to present them. Actually, this is Donald Trump saying he was going to take away the FCC license, and that was before all this. He said that, we hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. That's absolutely, positively not the truth. And so when you try and manipulate or suggest that, something else entirely, again, you're getting back to, this is taxpayer-funded FCC airwaves. You can't do that. Like, I realize you're a comedian and not a very funny one at that, but you have just gone beyond any place of acceptability. And so that is really and truly going to be a problem. They have a lot of issues over there. We know that. We've been through it with The View. I suspect that Jimmy Kimmel at this point may actually get fired. This may be it for the guy, because I don't know how Disney can deal with this level of scrutiny and not be able to respond to it in the appropriate fashion. I don't think the show makes much money for them anyway. We saw that with Colbert, right? Wasn't he losing like $40 million? Wow. Turning to another big story. Some of you may have seen this yesterday. I posted it very, very late last night, not on the live show, but separately, because this was some fireworks. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, boy, oh boy, oh boy, Adam Schiff, he didn't know what hit him. Kash Patel walked in the room, called him a buffoon, called him out right to his face. The senator from California getting handed a mouthful from one Kash Patel, director of the FBI. Let's watch.
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Well, you can take an internet troll.
Take it to the bank that the FBI is protecting this country and the state and citizens of the California. We are bringing historic reform.
Point of order.
I mean, that was good, right? Right. You had to see that one, because Adam Schiff, who I once called the lead actor in the Schiff show, right? Shifty Schiff in the Schiff show. He did actually want to be an actor. I think then at some point he wanted to be a film producer, and somehow he settled on senator from California, which tells you everything you need to know about California, right? I think they need to rework the maps there in California like they did in Texas, so they don't wind up with the likes of Adam Schiff. Not a very bright guy, and I say that in light of the allegations against him for his alleged mortgage fraud, because anybody that would actually take out multiple mortgages and claim that they were all his primary residence clearly isn't that bright, okay? Not very swift. Lisa Cook, not so swift either. Somehow she's hanging on to her job at the Fed, for now anyway. And then, of course, the other one being one Letitia James, who we all know isn't the brightest bulb at all. It's kind of ironic, right? Like that Donald Trump is able to use exactly what she was trying to go after him for in a perverted, twisted way. He's able to then use it right back at her and at Adam. So Adam Schiff gets into this testy exchange. Yeah, he's trying to insult Kash Patel. You guys are doing a lousy job. I'm just going to go back to, what was it, 33 hours? Wow. 33 hours and they got the guy. That is actually pretty remarkable. And you would think that Adam Schiff would have enough decency to say, hey, thank you. But this is the guy who didn't who didn't actually impeach Donald Trump once, but twice, 3 times. I mean, he just couldn't ever find an impeachment he didn't want to run down, right? I mean, and it was all crazy stuff. But this is what they've been doing over and over and over again. The Democrats have been pushing a narrative that's fake, that's wrong, and that's politicized.
Not see public office again. He is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated. And I hope these far right podcasters
eliminated. He has to be eliminated. Can we be a little bit more careful with our verbiage here, people?
Come to their senses and recognize that this is not war. We do not divide this entire country based on political ideology.
We are on the eve of an authoritarian administration.
See, there we go again. Trying to rally the troops because Trump is bad because, I don't know, he wants to improve middle-class wages. He wants to actually have a border, something that you guys actually once believed in once before. He wants to have lower interest rates so that, people have more mobility and can afford a home. He wants law and order so that people don't feel that, when they get on the subway, they're going to have what happened to that poor Ukrainian woman happen to them.
This is what 21st century fascism is starting to look like. I'm on the opposite side of that. I'm not with the Nazis. People can finger point all they want. Look at the record. Look at the actions of what we are doing. I don't think a single person who has dedicated their entire career to preventing gun safety legislation from getting passed in this House has any right to blame anybody else but themselves for what is happening.
Like we're in a war right now to save this country. And
whoa, okay, again, can we like tone down the rhetoric, buddy boy? This is the senator from Connecticut, Chris Murphy. I mean, you heard Dan Goldberg trying to say, okay, we're not Goldman. We're not in a war. But now, you go one state over to Connecticut, we're suddenly in a war. And AOC, she's always apparently in one.
So you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
What? Okay. Again, when you go back to that YouGov poll that I showed you guys earlier and you see that the extreme left, young people on the extreme left are somehow justifying violence, just look at what the adults are trying to feed them. That's frightening.
Look today at the left or the right as the enemy. And it's worth us stepping back and understanding how we reclaim a sense of ourself that maybe is not so rooted in politics, which is inherently oppositional. There has been a permissiveness about political violence, and I do think the President of the United States has to answer for the way in which he's created that culture of permissiveness.
They try to act like, he's created it? Excuse me, I'm listening to you guys right now. He's the one that got shot at. I mean, they tried twice to take him out. They were successful with Charlie Kirk, and you people sit there and say this garbage.
Political violence, it's the Democrats and it's the liberals, and it's like actually, I mean, I'm not going to say that like a left-leaning person cannot be violent because that would be like crazy to say that somebody can't be. But baby, y'all got the white supremacists galore, okay? Like all of them. You got the Proud Boys. You got the neo-Nazis inherent.
We have an issue. There are people on the left. There are people in the media that think somehow they're out there preventing the next Hitler, which I would say is actually incredibly insulting to all of the Americans that lost their lives, and there were a lot of them in World War II. I would say it's insulting to the millions of Jews that lost their lives. I would say it's insulting to all of our allies who lost their lives. For you guys to sit there and claim that Donald Trump is that, when all he's trying to do is create a better economy for working America, to actually ensure that we have borders, something you all believed in prior to him, when he just wants to offer Chicago more help and say, hey, I can send in the National Guard so you can have some more police on the streets, and they're going to fight it like that? we've reached, dare I say, a turning point. And when you look around the country right now and you see tens of thousands of new charters wanting to go up to honor Charlie's memory, that's a good thing. People are no longer afraid to speak out. They know what this moment in time is about. We're not going to have radical groups funded by foreign governments taking us over. Those days are over. It's going to change. It has to change. I'm seeing so many great comments from all of you here in the live show today. I want to get to some of them because I think you feel just like I do, that the media has been out of control, fully, totally out of control. And it's been allowed to be out of control for what? I mean, because there's been like no check on it for whatever reason for how many years now? I mean, we're going on 10 years of this crazy stuff. Oh my goodness, I think I got a really, Canwoods, thank you so much. I appreciate that generosity. I really do. You guys are all so generous. And look, it's been a tough week, right? It's been a tough week for me. It's been a tough week for all of us. My children didn't know him, but they watched him all the time. I've told you all, you can hear it from mom, right? But it's not the same as hearing it when you discover it yourself from Charlie Kirk. Turning Point is a force. It's not going away. I think about all the good that can be done right now because young people everywhere are more engaged, have an inclination to be involved in civics and government because of Charlie, right? What he was able to accomplish truly, truly, truly is just amazing. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud to say that I was one of the first to put him on television because I know talent. I know talent. And he had it in spades. And he's looking down. He's looking down on us knowing that he could have done a lot more, but that we can all collectively together take this forward, and we will. We absolutely will. Thank you so much. JD's speech in Michigan was great. You're right, Peach Roses, and he did a great job subbing for Charlie on his show. I mean, it's a different time. I think that, there are these moments in history. I read something by a political scientist the other day where you just see this ground shift, this total change, right? Total change that happens because of a moment in time. And I think Gary's metal detecting, thank you so much. I agree with you on what he said about Benny, by the way. Another reason Chris Cuomo needs to be fired. My gosh, disgusting stuff. I totally agree with you. But in other words, there's this moment in time that's happening that is very rare, but is very monumental. And this is one of those moments when I think a lot of us on the right, not me, I mean, I'm out here every day and I say exactly what I think, and sometimes it gets me in a lot of trouble, right? I was willing to call out how crazy the national shutdown was for, March 2020. And, next thing I knew, I no longer had a job at Fox, but that's fine. It all worked out for the best. Do you know that I do triple the amount of views that Fox Business does over here on YouTube? Just little Trish Regan, right? So, I kind of just hung up a sign. You could say, hang up a shingle, and what do you know? Here I am, and it's because of you. Charles, thank you. It's because of all of your generosity and all of your commitment to the truth that I've been able to make this a success, and we are now over 1 million subs strong. So this has been an incredible journey for me, and I'll tell you, I'm not giving up. I know you're not giving up either. We got a lot of work to do. We got to save this country. We got to make sure that we get the foreign influence out. We got to help our kids, for goodness sakes, and make sure that they're on the right track and not being radicalized down these crazy rabbit holes online. Much, 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 much more ahead to do. I love that you're here. Please make sure you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that for me, for this movement, for history. Okay, because there's a lot more ahead. I should point out, how could I forget, the Federal Reserve did lower interest rates. I call that the Trump effect by 1/4 of a point, you guys. 25 basis points. You know, some people were hoping for 50. Stephen Moran, who just went over there to join the Fed board, he wanted a little bit more. But I'll tell you, I'll take what I can get at this moment in time because I know it's going to help. Federal Reserve cutting interest rates by 1/4 of a point. This is good. This is exactly what Trump wanted. And, you know, the markets like it. They're going to continue liking it. If you're interested in investing, it's a free guide that we have, Invest in MAGA, because we have a look at sort of all the great things that the MAGA movement economically is putting forward. And so I encourage you guys to go take a look at that. You can also subscribe to my newsletter, 76research.com. Go there, use code word dollar, DOLLAR, so that you get it for just $1 a month for the first 2 months. I do want to get to this other comment because, let me pull it up. They're fast and furious. I'm looking off screen so I can see everything that you guys are writing. I love that you're this engaged. I think very few people, I was looking at this, you know, we never spent any money marketing on this show. We just kind of did this all organically. And I think that that is a big reason why we have had so much success and we have had they call it stickiness in this business, right? Because you have people that really genuinely like you. You're here not because I took an ad out somewhere or did something in someplace else. You came here because you found me, you liked me, and you stayed. So thank you again for all of that. Don Bacca, one of the originals, right? Leslie, thank you for your generosity the other day. I really appreciated that. Leslie's been great. Cat Crazy here from almost the beginning, right? David as well. Sherry Berry, thank you very much telling me to take good care of myself and to make sure I get some rest. I'm okay now. Last week was tough, and occasionally, Sherry Berry, I think about it, and it's hard. It's hard. Again, he was a competitor sort of mine and a colleague of mine, right, at Salem Media, because they sell our show. So like the Balance of Nature ads, that kind of thing that you see. And I loved Charlie. I've actually filled in for him on his show before when he needed some help. And I consider myself to be someone who helped in some small way get him out there in front of the public many, many years ago. So I'm saying my prayers for him, and I'm saying my prayers for the country and for the next generation, because they don't need this, they don't deserve this, and we can do much, much better. I love you all. Thank you for everything that you do to make this show a success. If you haven't watched us live before, it's okay. Try and tune in. Make sure you hit the bell so you know exactly when I'm live, and make a comment. It helps, believe me. Every bit helps in the algorithm. I've learned that. The algorithm. Okay, thank you again. I'll see you tomorrow.